Yes, we're in a totally new location, just as a one-off because I'm away, but I wanted to speak about this Magdalena Bay album. I couldn't give it a miss, guys. I couldn't wait much longer. I've been itching. I've had these notes written down for so long. I've been itching to talk about Magdalena Bay. So don't say I'm not committed to this YouTube reviewing shit, because I am here to give you a review of this new fantastic Magdalena Bay album while I'm away. Yeah, so sorry if the lighting's a bit off, sorry if everything just seems a bit odd. We're going to get through it, we're going to go with it, and hopefully you're here to stick around to see what I have to say, because Magdalena Bay, I saw it coming. If you're watching this, I saw it coming. I said it, I knew it, I said it, I've put it on tweets, I'm sure I've said it in other videos too. I knew this was going to happen. Mercurial World is really good. It really is good. Like, it really, really is good. But I knew there were places to go. I knew we could see them top it. And they did. And they topped it good. Oh, they topped it good. Because they are here with this new album. And it's bloody great. Imaginal disc at times genuinely feels like pop perfection. It feels like we are witnessing songs that just feel that they'll be timeless. Feels that they are the peak of what pop can be. It's just magical to listen to. It really is. Now, those are strong words, and I know there'll be people straight in there to kind of just go, oh no, this album's getting overrated, this album's getting, you know, gassed up too much. And I get it. Sometimes if there is an album that everyone's loving and you're the only one that doesn't feel it, but you have valid reasons as to why. You're not just being a hater for the sake of being a hater. You're not just kind of jumping down people's throats. Like, sometimes you do just feel like that one person that just doesn't like it, and you have your reasons, and that's okay. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, we do need to address this word overrated, because I'm seeing it getting thrown around a lot for this album. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because they're an indie group and there are pop stands that are just like jumping down the throat because it's like nobody listens to this shit or whatever. I don't know. But I'm just bored of that word. I've talked about this a lot already. I'm bored of the word overrated. I'm bored of the idea that people can't like things because, you know, that's kind of what overrated is. You're not really saying what you don't like about the album. You're just saying people shouldn't like it. That's all that word means, really. But I do think, without going overboard, without going silly with it, that some of these tracks are genuinely pop perfection. I'm sorry, man. Death and Romance, the lead single for this album, just exactly that for me. Just so beautiful in how it's produced, so immaculate. It is just the definition of perfection. I can't see how you can get any better than this. Like, their first album, it was getting there at times, but my God, kicking off this album with this one is just wonderful. That sheer commitment, I think, as well, is just so wonderful. You know, the kind of like just pouring everything into somebody else. I've talked about this in videos before, where those kinds of songs just feel so beautiful to me. Like, just the wording of some of the lines that she comes out with on the chorus, I just think is so glorious. It feels like love is just brimming out of her in a way that I just find so incredible to hear somebody say about somebody else. And it's so beautiful as well, because it's about one another. Like, they are together, and these songs will be about Matt, of course. The last track being the ballad of Mica and Matt, of course, or Matt and Mica, whichever way around it goes. Like, yeah, this is lovely. Like, this is lovely. She's writing songs about him and they're making music together. Isn't that just so nice? That's My Flaw is another track as well that I just think is so fantastically arranged. It's kind of got this self-titled St. Vincent vibe to it, where it's got that kind of like bubbly sounding glitchy stuff that comes through, which I really like. I also want to point out as well, the opening track with this kind of like disjointed off-kilter rhythm that I think is really cool. I think if you're just kind of hearing it for the first time, you might not necessarily catch the rhythms because they're a bit all over the place. The drum patterns are a bit out of time, it sort of sounds, but once you kind of get locked in, you do appreciate what they're going for. I also really like the really cool detail of the fact that the beginning from their last album, which is in fact the closing track, nicely does segue into this first track. If you play them back to back, you notice that there is kind of like a little loop going on there, which is really cool, because obviously the track is called The Beginning, but it's at the end of the album, but it's also like the beginning of this album too. I assume that had to be intentional what they were doing there, but I like that it's a nice little Easter egg here. Killing Time, another great track, that kind of glitchy spacey sounds that come through I really like. There's just nice little details in the production that make it feel so kind of like intergalactic, which I think is really fun, but also there's just this really lovely nice plodding along rhythm that goes along with it. It's just a really great synth pop. It's just such an enjoyable track. But I also like as well how this entire song just feels like Red Dwarf. Anybody who has ever seen that show with the kind of like wacky things that go on within it, and then the ending of the song here just kind of goes into this really odd sort of warped sound that makes it seem like some kind of monster or villain is about to attack. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm listening to Red Dwarf, the soundtrack. I don't know how or exactly why, but I did tell a friend who is a big fan of the show about that feeling I had, and they did agree with me, so I feel like I could be onto something, especially if you've seen that show. Image, another fantastic track that just feels like it's tickling that feeling of just hearing something that just sounds so sugary sweet, and it's just touching the right places, but it's not too sweet that it's like a bit too much, or it's not like, it's never doing too much. They're just always in the right bag. They're always in the right pocket every single time with these tracks. And oh my God, I am up grooving, man. This is such a catchy refrain. Oh my days. And then the layers that they add on to the final chorus, where it just beefs it all up. It sounds fantastic. I am just ready to freaking dance in the stars. Yeah, those subtle, sultry vocals, it all is just coming together so wonderfully. How can you not love this when you hear it, man? There's got to be some tracks you're taking away from this album. Like, seriously, there has to be some tracks. There has to be. Oh my God, Vampire in the Corner as well. I want to mention that one with the bleepy bloopy beat, which I think is really fun. Again, with those layers added on, they do this a lot. There's quite a few tracks that have this pattern or structure to them where, you know, it's really smooth to start with, but once you kind of get to the ending, they just add layers to the production and it just beefs it all up, and it just gets quite climactic and exciting. It's really cool. Kind of reminds me of like the Squid album from a few years back, you know, that one with the green album cover narrators on it. What's the album called again? Greenfield thingy blah blah blah. Yeah, that's the one. You know what I'm talking about. Every track kind of just had these endings that felt like really huge and really massive. A few of the tracks on this album do that too, but in a more pop-centric way. Love Is Everywhere kind of epitomizes the album to me, where every track just feels like there's just this brimming love pouring out of her. As I said, with Death and Romance, the lead single. Like, it's just so glorious, and Love Is Everywhere just has this whimsy to it. It just has this really playful feel to it. It just has this kind of magical, like, fictional vibe to it, but also it does feel very real because of the emotions that are being poured into it, but it at the same time feels like it's just straight out of like a children's book or something. It is so wonderful. And again, the production, my God, and the singing, everything just comes together so fantastically. It's ridiculous. Cry For Me I want to mention because this is rivaling the best track on the album, because I still think Death and Romance might take the cake, but Cry For Me, every time I listen to it, I'm just ever so closer to thinking, is this the one? Is this the one? Is it the one? It might be the one, man. It could be. It could well be the one. Like, it could be. Because, Jesus, the bass groove? The bass groove? You know I love a bass groove. If you watch this channel, you should know I love a bass groove, my God. The bass groove and that bit as well. With, again, there's just so many like little refrains within refrains. And then there's hooks within hooks, and there's choruses, and then there's like catchy verses. It's so good where she's like, sharing little kiss, do, do, do. It sounds so fantastic, so good. It just sticks in my head for years. And this is why I think there's a timeless feel to this album, man, because already within like, however many listens I've done for this review, which, you know, I'll be honest, not many listens are always required to write up a review, really. But like, they're just ingrained in my brain, and I feel like they've been stuck with me for so long. And I feel like this album hasn't just come out this year. It feels like some of these songs have been, you know, eternally existing within the world of music, because that's just the vibe they give off here. They did something. They sprinkled something in these tracks, because Cry For Me, man, that is something else. Think of Love When You Remember Me. That line is insane. Like that line is crazy. That feels like it's straight out of like a beautiful romantic movie between two people that just have incredible chemistry. You know, something like Before Sunrise or something like that. Like, it's just so out of that playbook for me. Like, incredible line. Think of love when you think of me. That is so good. So simple, yet so effective. And that's another thing about this album. Like, the writing is genuinely good. Because I think if you're just listening to this just for the sake of, you know, catchy pop music, which you're getting in spades, by the way, obviously. But when you do listen to those little details, those finer details, like I said with Death and Romance, when you pay attention to those finer details in the writing, it really is stunning. Like, it really is beautiful hearing her say these things about the person she loves. It's really, really nice. I can be a bit of a softie sometimes, guys. When this is done well, I am all over it. When it's done a bit, nah, I'm probably very critical of it in maybe some reviews I've done this year, for example. But when it's done well, I'm all over it. I'm all over it. Final track as well, I've already mentioned this one kind of in passing, but yeah, I feel like this track kind of culminates everything that was being done in the album. It's almost like this track that's kind of like them two ready to fight the world sort of vibes. I don't really know if that's what they're going for, but it kind of feels like they're just culminating everything they've been saying throughout the album, and now it's just like their turn to take on the world. It's kind of got that feel to it. Sounds great. Yeah, the track before it as well goes for a bit more of a ballady type feel. Again, really, really well produced and arranged, everything about it. There's just so many nice little details within the production on this album and on so many tracks. Sometimes it's a bit off kilter and it's not just straight up, you know, synth pop, but when it's just adding these extra layers of detail, I'm really all over it. And yeah, I'm super impressed. It lived up to expectations. Sometimes albums don't. If I have high expectations, it might slightly let me down, but this one didn't at all. I just knew it was going to top Mercurial World. I just had that feeling. As soon as I kept hearing the singles come out, you know, That's My Thought, Image, Death and Romance, one by one, I was just like, they're nailing it. Like, they're nailing it with every single one. They just can't mess it up with this album now. And of course you get into the deeper cuts like Cry For Me, and you're like, well, this wasn't even a single, but yet it could be the best song. It's like they're just really, really on it with this, man. This is definitely, at this current moment in time, pop album of the year, which is brave to say because we do have Brat out this year, and Charlie XCX absolutely killed that entire era with that album. Like, it really is fantastic. My opinion hasn't changed on that album, but I think this might have just upped it slightly. Not that there's, you know, a competition, not that there's any kind of, you know, head-to-head thing going on here. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, in the world of pop music, this might be the best pop album of 2024. It's brilliant. 9 out of 10 from me. This is fantastic. Definitely an album of the year contender. I genuinely think it will stay this way as well over time. I think that feeling I have with this album is not just going to go away. I think it might even get better and better over time too. Yeah, this is as good as people are saying. Like, look, I'm sorry, man. I've already talked about the word overrated in this video. And I get it, if you're not feeling it, you might feel left out and you might be wondering what it's so special. But I don't know, sit with it maybe, come back to it. I think there's something really, really brilliant going on here. And yeah, Magdalena Bay, they've got to be next up. They've got to be next up. You can't be making music this good and not get some viral song or moment out of it, because like, they can't just remain this indie group forever. This is just too good to just stay like that. But yeah, thank you. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Like I say, I'm on like a bit of a mini vacation, so bear with me with the structure, the setup of everything. Hopefully I still got to the core of what makes this album so good though, because that never changes. I stay the same. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're generous as well and you liked what I did here, like the video, share it around, subscribe, do all that nice stuff as well. Have a good day. Have a good holiday if you're on holiday too. And goodbye.